Per usual, I did not have this planned, but make sure you hit subscribe with the bell and make sure all of your notifications are turned on because y'all know how it is. Like, nobody's getting notifications. So, anyway, I'm gonna wait for a few people to show up to the live stream. If you're here, let me know in the live chat. We'll see if YouTube's working or not. So, actually, tell me how long it takes for you to get notifications for these videos. Oh my gosh, like my makeup's already coming off. So many people have been like, Rachel, why don't you wear makeup anymore? Did you have like some sort of like come to Jesus moment about makeup? No, you guys, I'm getting electrolysis on my face. Otherwise, I'd have like a straight up beard because my hormones are like crazy. So every single week since October, I've been getting electrolysis for an entire hour. So I'm like, I don't know. I'm basically like a polar bear, and I have to like let my skin heal. But anyway, I went to dinner last night, so I decided to put on some makeup, and I like immediately fell asleep on the couch, and that's why my makeup looks like this right now. So anyway, I'm sure ladies, you know how it is sleeping in makeup. So anyway, I wanted to talk about something because this morning I was like checking on my plants and I was wondering how many people did like a COVID garden for the first time or just like a garden in general last year. So I know I did. And I think for a lot of people, this was like their first time really gardening. And it was a huge failure. So my garden totally failed. Like everything died. A giant caterpillar ate my jalapeno plants. The only thing that really survived were my green onions that I'd like cut from the green onions or scallions that you get at the grocery store, and then I like put them in a cup of water and then they grew their roots, right? So the reason that I wanted to talk about this is because when we like every single time that I've ever talked about the end times, people have always been like, oh, well, I'm just going to go live off the land. I don't have to worry about like putting my faith and trust in Jesus Christ. All I have to do is like go out and prep, and I'm going to just have a bunch of seeds, and then I'm going to go barter and trade with people. And I'm just like, so many people put way, way, way too much faith and trust in their own abilities. And we see in places like Venezuela where they're literally having to like slaughter zoo animals because their economy is in the toilet and people are starving to death. And people who had farms and things like that, they're gone. And it's like we can see in all of these places where they've had like huge economic downturns that people just bartering or prepping and living off the land isn't a reality because you have to have all of these other supplies that you have to replenish. Like, what are you going to do for, I don't know, machinery or, whatever to harvest all of these plants? Like, so many people have such high hopes in their own ability to sustain themselves, and it's not realistic. It's not realistic in 2021, and it's not going to be realistic when the Antichrist shows up. And it's shocking to me because I hear so many Christians say this, like they're just going to continue to live their lives as usual and they're not going to have to like put their lives on the line for their faith. They're not going to have to stand up for Jesus. They're just going to like trust in their preps and their own ability to be able to sustain themselves until Jesus returns, which is absurd. Like when you think about it, like what does the Bible actually say about the end times? It says that you're not going to be able to buy or sell without the mark. And you're not going to be able to hide from the Antichrist or anything like that. So I don't know why, like, if you can't even hide in caves or whatever, these people think, like, oh, I'm just going to start a little commune out in the middle of nowhere and we're just going to buy and sell and trade without taking the mark. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So what it comes down to is Christians are going to have to make a decision. Like, are they willing to lose their life for Jesus? Are they willing to put their faith on the line and say, you know what? Even if I'm hungry, even if I'm thirsty, even if I lose my home, if I lose my family, I'm still willing to go through the fire for Jesus because Jesus is the truth. Are you willing to put it all on the line for Jesus? Because if you're not, when all of a sudden you lose your home, when you don't have the ability to purchase gasoline for your vehicle, or you're cut off from electricity, if you think that you're going to just like live off your solar panels or something, like, are you going to be able to continue to keep the faith? You know, so many people, whenever they have like a health emergency or a financial emergency, that's when their faith just fails. All of a sudden, like, oh, if people were mean to them, or maybe they didn't get a job or something because of their faith, all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, I'm not going to be a Christian anymore. And it's like, you know what? It's going to get substantially worse when the Antichrist comes. Like right now, it's like nothing. And so many people still fall away for like the silliest of reasons. And I don't know, that's what I was thinking about when I was like out here tending my plants today because last year it was like such a dismal result, and I just thought, like, how many people out there have said to me like, "Oh, I'm going to just garden. Oh, I'm going to prep." And then, my first year of like really trying to garden out here in the desert, it was a failure. And then this year, if you want to look at these tomatoes, I have a couple red tomatoes. But how long would that last me? Like, I can't survive off 4 tomatoes, okay? Like, having enough food to sustain a family for years, and we know that once the Antichrist comes, it's going to be at least 3.5 years before Jesus could even show up. Like, looking at the biblical timeline, so it's like, are you going to be able to live through 3.5 years minimum of persecution, keeping the faith, being an outcast, pretty much having to like live as like a fugitive, and I don't know what you're going to do for food or water. You could be imprisoned, who knows. Are most Christians going to be able to keep the faith? And I don't know, I have really low hopes for most people keeping the faith through all of that, because you just see today, when we're not dealing with all of that stuff, people drop like flies. Somebody was mean to me. Oh, I had a bad experience at a church. Some pastor was a charlatan, whatever. There's so many reasons, especially when you talk to like former Christians. They've all had some experience where somebody was mean to them, and it's like, Christians, if that's what it takes for these people to leave the faith, oh my God, how many people are going to leave the faith when persecution really ramps up and we actually have like laws in place where Christians are freely persecuted? And I'm not just talking about like, oh, cancel culture or, whatever. I'm talking about like, it is illegal to be a Christian. How many Christians are going to be able to survive? So looking at my plants, I have tomato, I have basil. This is not an edible plant. This is bougainvillea. I have a mint plant, I have a pepper plant, and I have green onions, scallions. Like, there's no way. I know how much work it took just to sustain these. There's no way I could sustain myself. And I think that's what it's going to come down to, is realizing I can't do it on my own. I cannot sustain myself. I cannot trust in my own works and abilities to save myself. I'm going to have to put my full trust and faith in Jesus Christ. Even if that means that I lose everything. It might mean losing a spouse. It might mean losing a house. It might be losing your ability to eat. You might starve to death. And you have to be willing to say, you know what, regardless, I am going to decide here and now as a Christian that I recognize that these are the things that could happen, and they most likely will happen if I live long enough to experience the Antichrist coming onto the scene. And I'm making the conscious decision to say, even if this happens, I'm not going to fall away from Jesus. I'm going to make a decision to say, I will go without these things, even to the point of death, because Jesus is the truth. So I wanted to like read this little verse that was on my mind, and it was Psalm 52:7, and it says, "See the man who would not make God his refuge, but trusted in in the abundance of his riches and sought refuge in his own destruction. If you think that you're going to save yourself, that you're not going to face persecution, and that you have some sort of like secret way to, I don't know, live your life without having to stand up for Jesus, you are sorely mistaken. You will realize that that is going to end in destruction. And just remember, Jesus says that anybody who tries to save their life will lose it, but those who lose their life will end up saving it, as far as like you will live with him forever in the New Jerusalem. So anyway, that's what I wanted to share with you guys. I hope you will like, subscribe, and share, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.